Reality is not fixed. The world you experience is not a rigid structure. It is a responsive field, constantly shaped by consciousness itself. That's why so many people feel as if their lives are guided by invisible currents. They repeat the same patterns, meet the same kinds of obstacles, chase the same outcomes, without ever understanding why. It feels like fate, coincidence, or bad luck, but beneath the surface, something far more subtle is at work. Across quantum science, philosophy, and ancient mystical traditions, the same hidden idea keeps emerging. Reality behaves less like a machine and more like a matrix of consciousness, responding to thought, attention, and intention in ways most people never learn to see. By the end of this video, you'll discover 5 hidden rules that quietly shape the reality you experience every day. And once you begin to see these patterns clearly, the world will stop feeling random and start revealing the deeper structure behind everything you thought was fixed. Look closer, and you'll begin to see that what we call life is far from linear, far from the rigid chain of cause and effect that our minds are conditioned to accept. Time, as you perceive it, is not a strict arrow moving from past to future. Instead, it is a pliable, almost liquid field capable of bending, stretching, and folding in ways that the conscious mind rarely perceives. Moments are not isolated. They echo, ripple, and interact across the unseen fabric of existence. The choices you make today are not confined to what seems immediate. They influence events that appear distant, both in space and in time, like stones dropped into a pond whose concentric waves eventually reach the shore you have yet to see. Your consciousness is not merely a passenger observing these events. It is an active force, a conductor orchestrating a symphony whose notes are invisible yet tangible in their consequences. The soul, in its essence, is more than a witness to life's dramas. It is a perceiver, a catalyst, a prism that refracts the unseen energy of the universe into the patterns we experience as reality. Yet for most people, this power remains dormant, buried beneath layers of conditioning, fear, and habit. Society teaches you to look outward for authority, for validation, for the rules of existence, rather than inward toward the silent engine of perception that shapes the very foundation of the world around you. Consider the shadows that stretch across your life. Fear, doubt, resentment, and cultural expectation are not mere psychological phenomena. They are forces that influence the resonance of your consciousness. They anchor you to a narrow range of possibilities, convincing you that certain outcomes are inevitable, that some doors are permanently closed. These shadows form part of the matrix, the invisible architecture that determines what appears possible and what seems impossible. But here is the secret that few ever recognize. The matrix is not an external jail. It is a reflection of collective belief, a mirror that responds with precision to the frequencies you broadcast. What you perceive as limitation is often a signal of unaligned focus rather than an immutable law of existence. To awaken to this reality is to step into a deeper understanding, one that is both liberating and disorienting. When you begin to notice patterns instead of random events, synchronicities instead of coincidences, you start to perceive the scaffolding beneath the visible world. Every encounter, every repeated circumstance, every seemingly mundane detail is part of a hidden network that reflects your inner state. This network is not inert. It is alive, responsive, and precise, a lattice of probabilities that vibrates with your attention, your clarity, and your intention. Imagine that you are observing life through a lens that refracts possibility. Every interaction, every situation is not just a moment to endure, but a subtle opportunity to influence the underlying field of reality. The more attuned your perception, the more you begin to sense this responsiveness. Ordinary events begin to feel charged with meaning. Moments of coincidence take on the weight of guidance. Patterns that once seemed chaotic now reveal themselves as a form of hidden order. In this awareness, you see that the world is not an external authority dictating your limitations. It is a mirror of the consciousness you carry, a reflection of what is coherent, resonant, and aligned within you. Yet, recognizing this hidden web is only the first step. To navigate it consciously, one must also understand the currents of resistance, the invisible forces that push against alignment. These forces are subtle, often invisible to the casual observer, manifesting as doubt, procrastination, distraction, or the persistent pull of old habits. They are not punishments, they are signals, indicators of where your energy is misaligned with the patterns you wish to influence. When you see them as such, they lose their power to dominate and instead become guides, showing precisely where awareness and intention must be applied. As this awareness deepens, the world begins to shift in ways that feel almost imperceptible at first, then undeniable over time. You notice that your interactions carry a different weight, that events respond to your inner clarity, that doors you once assumed were closed begin to open. This is the subtle art of conscious navigation within the hidden web, a practice of perception, alignment, and responsiveness that transforms ordinary life into a field of infinite possibility. Ultimately, the hidden web is not something to be mastered with force, nor is it a system to be cracked with intellect alone. It is a living, responsive field, one that requires sensitivity, patience, and presence. To engage with it is to cultivate a harmony within yourself that mirrors the universe itself. The more coherent, focused, and attuned your consciousness becomes, the more the web reveals itself as not a prison, but a playground. A living tapestry in which each thought, each intention, each subtle shift in attention resonates outward, creating the conditions for transformation, insight, and awakening. Imagine standing in a room where the walls are not walls at all, but membranes, responsive to thought, attention, and subtle shifts in perception. What you have always considered solid, the furniture, the doors, the boundaries of your body, and the world around you, begins to feel more like suggestion than fact. And yet, almost no one notices this. Almost no one considers the possibility that their reality, the very environment they navigate every day, is fluid, alive, and listening. Now, take a moment to reflect on your daily life. The repetitive routines, the habits you barely notice, the seemingly random encounters. What if these are not random at all? What if each moment contains a resonance, a frequency, a subtle prompt from the universe waiting for conscious attention? Most people drift through life as if blindfolded, touching only the surface of existence. The life they inhabit appears fixed because they rarely perceive the feedback loops of consciousness in action. But for those who can see, even faintly, a new world opens, a world where attention, focus, and clarity are the instruments that sculpt reality. Consider a dream that feels more vivid than waking life. Within that dream, every hesitation, every choice, every moment of focus shifts the unfolding scenario. The dream is fluid, flexible, and responsive, yet in waking life, few realize that the same principle applies. The moments you dismiss as ordinary, waiting in traffic, sitting in a meeting, walking through a familiar street, these are the seams where reality bends. These are the doorways to a higher perception, subtle thresholds where the ordinary folds into the extraordinary. What is most extraordinary about this doorway is that it has always been present. You were never without access to it, you were simply unaware. From birth, the mind is trained to accept limitations, to separate the inner from the outer, to see the world as fixed, predetermined, and outside your control. But consciousness, the deep observing presence within you, has always known differently. Even in moments of fleeting intuition, sudden insight, or uncanny coincidence, you have brushed against this hidden doorway. These experiences are not accidents. They are signposts, invitations, and confirmations that the boundaries you perceive are permeable. Now, imagine the consequences of fully stepping into this awareness. Ordinary situations take on extraordinary weight. A glance from a stranger, a sudden thought, an unexpected sound, these are no longer dismissed as random. Each becomes a potential interaction with the field of probability itself. You begin to see that what you once called chance is the response of a responsive universe. A universe that mirrors the coherence, clarity, and focus of your consciousness. This realization can feel both exhilarating and disorienting. There is a tension that arises when you glimpse the rules behind reality yet continue to live among those who cannot. A quiet fear may surface, the fear of responsibility, the fear of power, the fear that what you thought was stable is in fact entirely mutable. And this is precisely the point where transformation begins. The doorway is not something external, it is the threshold of your own awareness. The key has always been within you. All that is required is the courage to acknowledge the fluidity of life and to consciously step through it. In this space, ordinary assumptions dissolve. Cause and effect are no longer linear. Probability is not fixed. Time is no longer a constraint, but a medium that can be navigated with awareness. Your perception, your attention, and your intention are not mere reflections of reality. They are active agents shaping its contours. Every subtle shift in thought, every calibration of focus, every moment of conscious choice carries the power to ripple outward and transform the patterns of existence in ways you cannot yet measure. The doorway is both invitation and challenge. It asks you to see beyond the habitual interpretations of life, to observe the hidden currents of influence beneath the surface, and to participate consciously in the unfolding of reality. It is an inner threshold where imagination meets manifestation, where possibility becomes tangible, and where the subtle architecture of the universe responds to the resonance of your mind. The question you must now confront is simple but profound. Will you continue to walk along the path of conditioned perception, believing life is a fixed landscape, or will you step forward, consciously, into the living web of reality, where your awareness is both observer and architect, and the world itself becomes a reflection of your inner mastery? At the deepest layer of existence, the universe does not operate merely as a backdrop for your experiences. It is not an inert stage upon which life plays out. Instead, reality itself is responsive. Consciousness, the very act of perceiving, focusing, and intending, participates in shaping the world. This is the essence of quantum consciousness, the understanding that your mind is not passive, that it does not merely record life, but actively co-creates it. The patterns of your life, the events that appear beyond your control, are in fact intricately linked to the subtle currents of your awareness. To grasp this is to awaken to a profound truth. The matrix is not a prison. It is a mirror, a living, responsive reflection of your inner coherence, attention, and intention. And just as a sculptor shapes clay, you have the ability to shape the matrix itself, not through force, but through alignment, clarity, and resonance. This is not theoretical speculation. Quantum physics, philosophy, and mystical traditions converge on this point. Reality responds to consciousness. Observers influence outcomes. Awareness directs probabilities. Energy flows along the paths of focused attention. The universe is not blind. It is attentive, and it responds to the clarity of mind, the depth of alignment, and the subtlety of intention. To consciously navigate this field, to step fully into the power of quantum consciousness, there are 5 essential principles, 5 rules that act as both map and compass. 1. Perception precedes form. What you perceive as external reality is a reflection of the internal frameworks you hold. Your thoughts, beliefs, and mental structures create the lens through which you experience life. If you see limitation, scarcity, or impossibility, these patterns are mirrored in the world around you. Change your perception, and the environment itself begins to transform. This is not imagination, it is the principle of responsive reality. Begin to notice where your mind insists on fixed narratives and question them. Observe how what you accept as unchangeable is, in truth, a reflection of unresolved inner conditioning. When perception shifts, form inevitably follows. 2. Intention without attachment. Focused intention is powerful. It sends waves into the probabilistic field, creating ripples that shape outcomes. But attachment to a specific result generates resistance. The universe is not a machine. It is a living intelligence that responds to clarity, not compulsion. To work with this principle, cultivate precise conscious intentions while allowing the outcome to emerge naturally. Release the need for certainty and watch the universe respond with solutions, opportunities, and alignments far beyond what the rational mind could plan. 3. Attention is energy. Your consciousness is not passive. Every sustained focus acts as a stream of influence, directing subtle energy toward the objects of attention. When your mind lingers on fear, doubt, or limitation, you reinforce patterns that keep you trapped. When your attention rests on clarity, possibility, and alignment, it becomes a vector for transformation. Energy follows awareness. Focus becomes creation. This is the most immediate and accessible way to engage with the quantum field. Notice where your attention drifts unconsciously and consciously redirect it toward what resonates with the reality you wish to experience. 4. Resonance over force. The universe responds to vibration, coherence, and alignment, not effort, struggle, or brute force. Attempting to manipulate reality through sheer willpower is like trying to row a boat upstream against a current 10 times stronger than yourself. True influence comes from harmonizing with the underlying currents, the invisible architecture of consciousness that underlies all manifestation. Raise your inner frequency through alignment, emotional coherence, and mental clarity, and the world begins to shift in ways that appear effortless. Reality does not resist harmony, it amplifies it. 5. Presence as navigation. The present moment is not merely a point in time, it is a portal. It is where probability collapses into experience, where thought becomes form. Past and future are tools, but the present is where conscious creation occurs. To navigate the quantum field, cultivate presence. Observe your inner state, your thoughts, and your intentions without distraction. The act of awareness itself shapes the matrix. By existing fully in the now, you become both observer and architect, capable of influencing the unfolding of events with clarity and purpose. When these 5 principles are understood, practiced, and integrated, life transforms. Patterns that once seemed random now reveal themselves as malleable threads responsive to the precision of consciousness. Synchronicities emerge not as coincidences, but as confirmations of alignment. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. You are no longer a passenger on the river of life. You are the water, the current, and the riverbank simultaneously. The matrix is no longer a mystery or a trap. It is a responsive field, a living canvas that reflects the depth, clarity, and resonance of your consciousness. You begin to see that what you once considered fixed or inevitable is fluid, open to subtle influence, and capable of being reshaped from within. At this moment, the veil between what you thought was real and what is possible begins to lift. The secrets of quantum consciousness are no longer theoretical, they are experiential. The universe is not indifferent, it is listening, it is responsive, and it is waiting for you to step fully into your role as conscious creator, wielding attention, intention, and presence as the instruments of transformation. Perhaps you feel, deep down, that life is a series of obstacles beyond your control. Maybe there are days when you move through the world weighed down by routine, disappointment, or the silent pressure of expectations that never seem to align with who you are. You may have noticed that no matter how hard you try, some situations feel immutable, some relationships stagnant, some outcomes locked in place. It is natural to feel this way. The world teaches limitation as a rule rather than an illusion. But what if I told you that these experiences are not permanent, that they are not evidence of inadequacy, and that the power to shift them has always been within you? Think for a moment about those rare instances when life seemed to respond in ways that startled you. Perhaps a coincidence appeared at the exact moment you needed guidance, a fleeting thought suddenly unlocked a solution, or an encounter carried more meaning than you could explain. Most people dismiss these moments, attributing them to luck or chance. But these moments are whispers from the underlying fabric of reality, subtle confirmations that the world is alive to your consciousness, waiting for your awareness to engage with it consciously. They are signals that you have always had access to doors that others overlook, thresholds that only reveal themselves when attention and intention align. You are not a passive observer of life. You are the thread that weaves the pattern of your existence. Your thoughts, emotions, and focus are instruments that shape your reality more than you realize. When doubt clouds your mind, it is not merely an inner struggle, it is a signal from the matrix itself, a reflection of misalignment between who you are and who you are becoming. When clarity emerges, even briefly, it illuminates the pathways that were always available but unseen. Every person experiences these moments. Every person has felt that flicker of possibility, even if it was fleeting or masked by fear. And it is precisely this human experience, the mixture of hope, uncertainty, and occasional glimpses of something greater, that connects you to the deeper reality of quantum consciousness. You are not alone in feeling powerless, nor are you alone in glimpsing the extraordinary within the ordinary. This shared tension between limitation and potential is what makes the awakening both personal and universal. It is human to struggle, it is human to doubt, It is human to feel constrained by the patterns of the world, but it is also human to rise above, to remember, and to reconnect with the latent power that has always existed within you. Consider the ways you may have unconsciously accepted life as it appears, the routines that keep you small, the fears that limit your choices, the inner dialogues that replay old stories of defeat or inadequacy. These are not permanent fixtures. They are echoes of past perception, patterns that can be reshaped with conscious attention. Recognizing this is the first step toward reclaiming agency over your life. The human experience, with all its complexity, is not a fixed script. It is a canvas responsive to the brushstrokes of your awareness. You may feel hesitant, wondering if it is possible to step fully into this role as creator. This is understandable. Transformation is rarely instantaneous. It is subtle, cumulative, and often invisible at first. But it begins with small, deliberate shifts in focus, awareness, and intention. Not by force, not by striving, but by choosing to see and interact with the world as a responsive, living field. Every decision to observe your inner state, to redirect attention, or to act from clarity is a thread that rewrites the patterns of your life. And here lies the most human and most profound truth. The moments when life seems unchangeable are also the moments that contain the greatest opportunity for awakening. Within frustration, stagnation, and doubt lies the potential for insight, transformation, and mastery. Your lived experiences, your joys, struggles, mistakes, and triumphs are not obstacles to transcendence. They are the raw material from which awakening emerges. The universe, in its infinite subtlety, is quietly responsive. It waits not for perfection, but for consciousness that is willing to notice, engage, and act. The intimate connection between your inner world and the outer matrix is always present. Even when life feels overwhelming, even when the patterns seem unyielding, the door to deeper awareness has never been closed. It is within reach. It has always been within you. And so in this chapter of your life, the choice becomes clear. You can continue to move through the world as a passive participant, or you can begin to recognize that your consciousness is not incidental, it is causal. The very patterns you navigate are shaped in part by the subtle currents of your attention and intention. And when this is understood, the human experience transforms from one of limitation and reactive motion into one of conscious engagement, where the mind, the heart, and the soul collaborate to shape a reality that resonates with your deepest truth. Awakening is subtle, almost imperceptible, yet transforms everything. It begins inwardly, observing your mind, noticing patterns, fears, and habits without judgment. Awareness itself becomes power, the lens through which possibility appears. Act with precision, not force. Harmonize with life's subtle currents. Each moment of intentional attention shapes reality, revealing patterns, openings, and alignment that were always present. The universe is responsive. Your focus, clarity, and presence are the key. Transformation grows from small acts, noticing, redirecting attention, and aligning intention with clarity. Conscious choice turns life from reaction into orchestration. Mastery is internal. Power is embodied awareness, resonating with the living matrix that is always waiting for your recognition. Reality is not fixed. It is a living mirror, responsive to the depth, clarity, and resonance of your consciousness. Limits, walls, and impossibilities are not absolute. They reflect scattered attention and incomplete awareness. The universe is attentive. Every thought, choice, and shift in focus shapes the field. You are both observer and participant, collapsing potential into manifestation. Life responds to your presence. It has always responded. Awakening is the recognition that reality is a dialogue, not a prison. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, the hidden revealed, and the impossible bends into alignment. You are not separate. You are both witness and creator, and the universe echoes the depth of your awareness.